Day three of the five regions face off here on PD's Picks. Uh, Having some fun with the NHL 25 stream, getting some good feedback here on social media from you guys as well. Um, Obviously, if you're following along with the tournament, be sure to hit subscribe, like as well. That way, you can stay up to date on our streams all week long as we kind of finish out this tournament. We're reaching about the halfway point here on Wednesday. We got three more games on tap. I'm going to jump right into them here pretty quick. Um, Three games that'll put us at 9 of 10 round robin games complete, and then tomorrow we'll get into some playoff action too. But nonetheless, all right, let's jump into it real quick. I'll share my screen. We got a lot of games to get to today. Let's see if I got this. I think we're good to go here. First game of the day out of the gate, Upper Peninsula taking on West Michigan. If you've been following along, you know we are 6 games into it. We have yet to see a power play, yet to see a man advantage. I did bump up those sliders quite a bit as we're simulating here. Hopefully, we see a couple man advantages for the first time. Bumped it up. We will either uh, see some power plays. We'll continue to either see none, or we're going to see a power play every other shift. It'll probably be one or the other. There's not going to be any happy medium, I'm afraid, when it comes to simulating video games like this. But nonetheless, we'll see. Okay, so Upper Peninsula and West Michigan here. Let me touch on the news of the day, news of the week in Michigan high school hockey here. Some of you may have seen on Twitter, actually, where I noticed that the Livingston Daily reporting that Rick Gadwa has stepped down as head coach at Heartland after 16 seasons, 17 seasons, something like that. One of the longer tenured coaches in Michigan high school hockey and a huge influence in our game. Obviously, did a lot with Team Michigan over the years and coached the seniors. Was a part of that coaching staff that won, I believe, back in 2023. Obviously, plays a big role in spring and fall hockey in the Michigan high school hockey scene with the Michigan TPH and the Michigan Hockey Advancement Program. I believe his role there is still set to continue, so he's still going to be very much involved in Michigan high school hockey. It's just going to be in a much different capacity now that he's similar to me, right? Or not affiliated to a program anymore. I've been bouncing around and been affiliated with a couple programs over the years, and with Rick obviously being involved with Heartland for almost 2 decades. So for him to step away from the program could be an opportunity in the future as the years go by. Because, like I said, I think he's still going to be involved and still be around pretty heavily in the high school hockey scene. Obviously, just not on a bench November through March as we've grown accustomed to seeing him. And really, he's been one of the faces of Michigan high school hockey. From a coaching standpoint, super influential, very helpful and willing to work with other programs, other coaches, get them involved in some of the spring, summer, fall programming. You know, influential and involved, like I said, with Team Michigan, which like that stuff can't be understated for any coach that's involved with. Joe Ford now, Ryan Ossenmacher, who's been involved for years in the process, and also involved in coaches assistant. Dave Mitchell, obviously, some of these coaches that have been involved, so heavily involved to really and make our game better. Not necessarily just focusing on their program and what's best for them and their kids, but what's best for Michigan high school hockey as a whole. And I can attest to that. That's very much Rick Gadwell. So to kind of lose his presence, so to speak, during the regular season of high school hockey is certainly going to be missed. It's definitely a bummer and certainly a loss to a degree for Michigan high school hockey. But like I said, I think he's still going to be around quite a bit, still heavily involved, and maybe an opportunity to be even more influential in some ways because he's not directly affiliated to a specific program in high school hockey. Similar, like I said, similar to me and what I've been able to do with the PD's Picks pod and promote players from across the state, which was, speaking from my personal experience, was hard to do um, when I was coaching, when I was on the bench for a certain program and things like that. It was hard to separate or detach yourself from that, and also um, promote the game and promote players from other teams and things like that. So you can very well see this step down from, stepping away from, or maybe be a real opportunity uh, for a guy like Rick to impact even more players on a statewide scale. So um, definitely a loss, definitely a bummer. I'd be lying to you if I said it doesn't suck from a high school standpoint. But like I said, I think it also opens the door to some opportunities in the future. So it'll be interesting to see what lies ahead for him and for high school hockey as a whole, because there's been quite a few high school coaches step down this off season. I think there's a couple more expected too. Um, haven't announced, there's been rumors and things swirling. Nothing's been public or made official yet, so I'm going to wait on those guys to make those announcements. But um, if that's what our off season looks like as high school hockey as a whole, we're going to lose some heavy hitters in our sport that have been very influential for a long time. And on one hand, obviously that hurts, that sucks. On the other hand, it's a huge opportunity for others, young guys to step up, guys who are hungry uh, to step up and seize an opportunity there with some big name programs and things like that. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes in high school hockey over the next couple months, couple years. So it could be a fun time for the sport. We shall see. Let me get you a bit of an update here. I know I rambled there through much of the first period, but it's still 0-0, so we haven't missed much action. I did change up the lineups a little bit here again between batches of games, just to, again, kind of keep these fresh, keep guys in the lineup and things like that. And then on top of that, let me get you an update on the rankings. If you're really this invested in a virtual tournament, I'll keep you guys abreast on what's going on there too. We get to the intermission. 0-0. This might be our first scoreless opening frame of the tournament here between West and the UP. Jump right into the second period here. Give you an update. The North actually sits in first place at the moment with a 2-1 record. They got 6 points in the standings. Then the next four teams: Metro West, UP, West Michigan here, in here, and Metro East as well, all tied for second with 3 points apiece. Today is going to be we'll call it Separation Wednesday. Typically, in my when I was working in youth hockey tournaments, we'd call it Separation Saturday, where teams would either play their way into the playoffs or play their way out. Separation Saturday. But obviously, with the scheduling today, we'll call it Separation Wednesday, where teams are going to play their way up or down the standings. Nolan Bink here gets on the board, puts the UP out in front or first in this one. Nolan Bink, I talked about him a little bit. I don't know if it was yesterday, 2 days ago. Look at that, Graham Johnson to Nolan Bink, nonetheless. You got a Escanaba boys connecting here on a goal. Nolan Bink, I can't say enough good things about him right now. He's one of the more dynamic defensemen in the class of 2026. So it could be a huge, huge senior season for him if he can put together a strong off season and kind of keep looking, developing, improving his game, things like that. You could see him really take his game to another level this time next year and really be one of the top prospects in Michigan high school hockey as a senior. So. Brady Ross finally getting on the board. He's been pretty quiet. The EGR guys in the tournament as a whole have been pretty quiet here in the 5 regions face-off. Brady Ross, that might be the first goal for either of the trio of Ross, Albers, and Owen from EGR. And maybe So in the game here, I put them all on separate lines. Maybe that was my downfall. Maybe I should have put all three of them on the same line as they were through much of the winter. And really, with those three together, hard to argue it wasn't the best line in Michigan high school hockey this season. Um, Great chemistry and obviously very well coached there by Coach Chris Newton. Um, I mentioned I think on yesterday's pod where the three of them played on a line together in the MDHL on that West Michigan team green in that league, and I think I have to go back and double check, but a couple tournament kids in there at least for the MDHL. Two of the three, maybe all three, were tournament guys for that organization. I don't recall offhand, but obviously super impactful. Three seniors there, nonetheless. Certainly going to miss their presence. Here he goes, James Albers up on the rush. Big game, James. As I was calling him, yeah, I'm sure some other people are calling him throughout the season as well. Not one, but two uh, overtime game-winning goals in that OKC conference tournament in late February. That was a very interesting concept, if you want to call it that, from the guys out west putting together that conference tournament. I think was huge, and I don't know that the format would work for all of the conferences and leagues around the state of Michigan, but it absolutely worked for the OKC and just the sheer number of teams that they have. I believe being the largest conference in terms of members in the state, in high school hockey. I thought, in talking to some of the coaches there too, about the conference tournament. Going into it, it was funny because I don't even think they really knew what to expect. I think they liked the idea, liked the concept, got it all approved by the MHSAA and everything. But going into that week, I don't even think they necessarily knew what to expect. And what they ended up getting was, I forget, like 6 of the 8 games ended up being 1 goal games. 5 or 6 of them went to overtime. Like it was crazy competitive. Which is great. And I don't know that that will necessarily be the norm, but I think you absolutely hit a home run on your first at bat there. Um, so the tournament went exceptionally well. Like I said, James Albers with not one but two OT winners in that tournament, and then EGR with a third overtime win in the championship game there too, to win the first conference tournament championship in high school hockey history there for the state. I don't think that had ever been done before. Um, but with the success of it, this is kind of what I was getting at. With the success of that tournament, um, you, I could see other conferences trying to implement it. Could the KLAA do something like that? Could the MIHL do something like that? I know they do. A lot of the teams in the MIHL also do the uh, Catholic League tournament, but that happens in I think, December. If you could do these conference tournaments towards the end of February and kind of lead into playoffs, I thought it really set up EGR for success because they've been playing playoff hockey for 2 or 3 weeks leading into the state playoffs. I figure teams like that are playing at the MIHL showcase, that to me is when playoff starts. Because the environment, the atmosphere at the MIHL showcase is every bit of a playoff atmosphere. And so for a team like EGR, West Granville being another one that was at the MIHL show, Forest Hill Central, that was at the MIHL showcase, to then go right into the OKC conference tournament, to then go right into the state playoff. You're talking a month and a half's worth of playoff games, or that playoff game type feel. So um, I wasn't as crazy about it going into the conference tournament. Okay, kind of a nice idea, whatever. I was kind of passive on it. But then after seeing it all unfold and how it all went down, I was like, oh shit. I was like, okay, I can buy this. We might need more of this in high school hockey. So good for them on being pioneers and kind of forging a path to getting it done. And I know there were some loopholes and red tape that they had to go through with the MHSAA, so to get it done and uh, get it off the ground in year one is obviously a big accomplishment. And like I said, rave reviews from everyone involved, and sounds like they will continue next season as well. So, I put Tevin Stupel back in the lineup here, 15 there in the center circle. Or no, not 15. What number is he? I lost him here on white. I was looking at Team Orange here, and that did not compute. Here we go, Stupel there with the puck in the corner. I haven't got a chance to talk about him too much here in the first couple of games. Stupel, a kid there out of Hancock, just fun from a coaching perspective. Uh, Super fun player to watch. I don't know that he's got a ton of flash and dash in his game, the fancy plays and things like that. But he is so aggressive, so in your face, um, undeniably impactful on the game in every single shift. Like as a coach, you cannot miss this kid when you're watching him play. Forecheck, the effort, the battles, the effort in 50-50 battles and things like that. Um, are there more skilled guys on the ice at times? Absolutely. But you'd be very hard pressed to find a kid that's going to outwork a kid like Tevin Stupel. I know you got some looks at the junior level this last off season. August, September, October ish, that kind of time frame when a lot of those junior teams are doing their main camps, kind of leading into the preseason and some of that. I know he got a pretty good look throughout the summer and into the early fall. And by all accounts, did very well, competed very well, showed very well because of that aggressiveness. Like the dipsy doos and the fancy plays are only going to get you so far, especially at the next level. At the next level, you got to be able to skate and you got to have that motor and be able to go. Because if you're not going and you're not going at all times, you're going to get exposed. So I think that's where Stupel is able to kind of shine at that level or be able to hold his own is because of that high motor, because of that work ethic that really separates him from the pack at the high school level. Not many players at the high school level play the game that way. So when I look at juniors last year, I could see him getting an even closer look this year ahead of his junior season. Um, not very many high school juniors are playing junior hockey, so I think it would be a tough jump. Is it possible? Sure. Anything's possible. And it'll be interesting to see. So a lot of that comes down to the organization, the opportunity, and the kind of shot that you get, so to speak. Um, and like I said, it sounds like he's got some pretty good looks and pretty fair looks early on. So we'll see what the future holds there. But Stupel, I think, is a very intriguing prospect in Michigan high school hockey, especially. And if we're lucky enough to get him back for a third season there, and we see him at Hancock as a junior, I think that's awesome for high school hockey, and I would consider him to be kind of in that same vein, maybe to like what Charlie Price is this season. Talking with some of the coaches involved with the MHA, where Price was playing for much of the last couple falls. Price was one of the big names scouts were calling about. Hey, what's this kid's story? Can we get him a look? Is he interested? That type of thing. Because of the way Price plays the game, hard nosed, feet never stop moving, constantly working. Those are the types of guys that a lot of junior scouts and coaches are looking for. And so that's what I mean is I think Stupel keeps developing, keeps progressing his game and advancing and things like that. I could see him in kind of a similar vein as where Charlie Price is currently. So Max Heinen, I was able to get him back in the lineup on the back end here for the UP. I think he's got a couple points in the tournament too. If anyone's keeping home, let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, had an assist on the first goal of the tournament to Aiden Miles there. Took him out of the lineup to make room for I think Ted Locus, I plugged him in on the back end yesterday. Kept Locus in today, and then was able to plug Heinen back into the mix for today's games. Trying to get everybody involved, trying to balance the playing time as much as I can, get these guys in and get them opportunities in the virtual world, so to speak. But all right, Arco, Jace the Fords, those guys have kind of gone hand in hand in this tournament and in conversations as I've talked to you on the pod as well. Houghton has had a good couple of years here. It's been a real strong run, even in the midst of the coaching change last season. I had even mentioned on the podcast, like I just a year ago, not knowing what to expect. They had graduated two big players, Markham and Carlson. Excuse me. And they both playing junior hockey, I believe. Not Markham is still active. I know I've seen him quite a bit, but Carlson, let me see if I can get Carlson. I know he was playing one of the Canadian junior leagues. I hadn't been keeping a tight on as much as of late. I haven't seen much. Yeah, okay. Playing in the Saskatchewan Junior League. Holy shit, 8 goals, 31 points. That's pretty solid. Let me check out his team here. Let's see how that compares on the roster. Split time last season between the AJ and the Saskatchewan League. He is third on the team in points. How about that? Good for him. So having a strong second season in the Saskatchewan League. Sorry, we got some technical difficulties. The storm might not do us any favors. I told you these episodes of the pod are way more relaxed, way more laid back, casual. I'm sitting down. With the storm and everything, hell, we may even lose power. My stream might go out altogether. So just bear with me as we go through this. But I wanted to finish that thought on Houghton. A year and a half ago, they were in the midst of a coaching change. Coach Michael Stipich stepping in for the first time. You had just graduated Carlson and Markham. You had lost two, call it generational players that are still playing high-level junior to date. And then they come back with a huge campaign. I believe a top-5 team last season with guys like Bryant Lee, with guys like Mikey Millette kind of leading the charge. He was the defenseman. This is how bad I am with myself, and this is why I like to have good notes in front of me so that I can have reminders and names and stats and things like that. Looking it up in real time, I kind of put myself on the spot, and I'm terrible at recall. Raffelli, there we go. That was the defenseman I was thinking of. Went out to Europe. I think he ended up coming back. But nonetheless, you had another batch of junior or high level prospects last season in Raffelli and Millette and Bryant Lee. So then to graduate that wave of talent, it was like, all right, well, what's going to be the story this season? And again, just kept plugging along. Are we heading into overtime here? It's third intermission. It's overtime? It is overtime. This is our first overtime game of the tournament. All right, we might have to buckle in here a little bit. But Houghton again, last season, kind of graduating another big wave of talent. Gibby Grendel's just going to right here. Oh, that was it. And Houghton has just kind of been able to rinse, repeat, reload, restock the shelves, and just keep coming along here. A top 10 team again this season, and bringing some key pieces back, or potentially bringing pieces back for next season. So Houghton obviously has always been a strong program, but we've really elevated to another level. I think in the last 3 or 4 years, all 2-on-1 here opportunity. Braden Lewis with a chance there. Ooh, big block by Gibby Grendel. Foot race there. Look at that, getting it done at both ends. Breakaway. Showtime. Oh, big stop by Bojic Curry. There's a kid I liked him a lot at the NIHL showcase. I had mentioned, I think out of the gate with the five regions, that Willie was hard to settle on in the UP because they just weren't kind of the go-to guys or some of the, if you want to call them high profile type stuff. There was a lot of young guys, a lot of guys maybe unproven to a certain degree because they were first year guys type stuff. Um, so just it was tough to find anyone kind of separating themselves from the pack. Uh, but Boja Curry, you know, big game for the UP, a chance to win it. Come on, don't go to a shootout on them. Don't go to a shootout. 10 seconds left. Somebody put one on there. Here we go. Oof. Oh, that was it. Gonna do it. All right. Shootout it is. I'd much rather just go endless OT. Um, I can't say I don't think I can say this way. Anyways, here we go. This is the first kind of like special teams opportunity we've gotten because we still haven't gotten a power play. I might just give up hope on the whole power play and seeing power play units and things like that. You know, we got to see some 3-on-3 and elevate some guys that way. We're going to shootouts here. You're going to see some names. Braden Lewis, the first one out of the gate for West. Check out your gear, boys. I tried to get you guys as close as I could. You know, CCM gloves. You know, if you were using a Bauer vapor stick or whatever it was. I tried to, I guess I tried to get as accurate as I could here. If it's in the game, it's in the game here. This is why I didn't want it to go to a shootout because the computer, when you sim stuff like this, like they're never going to score. Oh, there it is. Tony Kaufman, Caledonia Scene, for West Michigan. A big extra point there in the standings. See if I can update the standings that we're talking about it. West obviously going to fall into a two-way tie with the North for first place. And then UP still picks up a point, so that'll push them into third. And obviously, we got a couple more games here to get to today. So that was a long one. What a grind. Talking about them backhand nice. All right, what's our next game? What to do here? Ooh, this is a big one. I gotta get to it real quick. So the next matchup, this will be fun. We got Metro East versus Metro West for Detroit City supremacy. In a way, I suppose you got Metro West kids like Catholic Central, Heartland, Howell, Milford. Who else am I missing there? Taking on Metro East, so you're talking Trenton, De La Salle, uh, that whole narrative there. Let me see, I'll put West here, and then we'll put East here. This setup, good to go. There we go. Still no power plays. I'm just gonna give up hope on that front. May never happen. All right, let me check because I did tweak lineups a little bit. If I can get to it, we got some new goalies in the lineup today. For Metro East should be Blake Tice out of Cranbrook. And I got Will Keene, big guy out of Orchard Lake. Talk about the intangibles of a guy like Will Keene. Those should be your two netminders here: Keene in white and Tice in green. Uh, know which ones I have now. Good pad set there for Will Keen. Like I said, I tried to do you guys up as best I could based on what you had. Ian Castamo here rocking the yellow laces. I guess that's a Heartland thing. You boys might have to explain that one to me. Like, if I make the team, do you guys just give me a pair of yellow laces? How does that work? Because it seemed like everybody in the roster had yellow laces. Everyone I saw anyway. So just having some fun there. Okay, let's see here. Metro East, Metro West. If I'm looking at the standings, both tied, but East Metro West has a game in hand. Metro East is 1-2. Metro West is 1-1. Braden McNamara. I haven't really gotten a chance to talk about him much, but Divine Child, an interesting bunch there with some really good young talent that could be fun to watch in the next couple of years. Braden McNamara to me, and I know I've mentioned this on the pod, but he was really good in the NDHL this fall. And then when he stepped in to the regular season for Divine Child, his game did not change. He kept playing at a super high level for Divine Child, the same way he was, as if he was playing in the NDHL stuff. And I love to see that out of guys because a lot of times what you'll see at the high school level is these guys do Team Michigan or they do fall stuff. It's season, and you start to play the game at a pretty high level because you're surrounded by other high level players. Then you go back to your winter team, and it's obviously a different dynamic. It doesn't matter if you're playing for Divine Child or you're playing for Catholic Central. The roster makeup is much different in season than what you had grown accustomed to in the fall. And so you revert back to you go back to maybe some of your bad habits. You start to hang on to pucks too long. You start to force plays because now you're the big time playmaker, and your team needs you to create and make something happen. And you don't have to grip the stick as hard. You don't have to force a square peg into a round hole. You can and you should keep playing the game the same way, being hard on pucks, making the right plays. If you've got an open winger, move it to your open winger and then get up ice. That play is a lot easier to make and a lot more fluid when you're playing at the NDHL and NHA and things like that than it would be when you're then playing with a freshman or a sophomore in season on your school team. So your gameplay, your style can change a little bit from fall to winter. But the guys that are most successful or the guys that are the most impactful are the guys who are consistent, who don't change the way they play regardless of who they're on the ice with. Like being true to yourself, making the right plays, making the smart plays. Um, it's something that can't be understated. Where chance um, making the right plays. I see it a ton with defensemen who, you know, in the MDHL, they're very quick to make that 6 to 8 foot pass, move it up to a winger on the half wall. Then you get them in the regular season. That same winger is sitting there on the half wall, ready for that pass, but you're overlooking him and trying to hit a Hail Mary 2 zones away, or you're trying to skate it end to end because you're the go-to defenseman and you got to make a play. So it's just different, and it's a bad habit that a lot of players have to break or should need to break. But for a guy, kind of bring this back full circle. I know I was on a long rant there, but bring it full circle. A guy like Braden McNamara, when I kind of parachuted in on him during the regular season. Connor Forster being another one there for Gabriel Richard. Those guys, it was great to see them continue to play the game the way they had played in the fall. Because that's what's, like I said, that's what's going to set you up for success the most. Owen Hall been pretty quiet in this tournament. If this was a real life tournament, I can't imagine that'd be the case. Owen Hall very much impacts the game every time he steps on the ice. One of the more impactful wingers in high school hockey this season. I'll expand on that in a second. I made a comment on Twitter kind of early in the season. Um, didn't get me in trouble necessarily, but it sparked a good conversation. And I had said that it's always a red flag to me when a team's best player is on the wing, because at this level, especially at the high school hockey level, your centers need to be impactful in all three zones. They need to be moving their feet, need to be active and engaged. And your wingers, a lot of times, get lost in the shuffle there and end up doing a lot of standing around and waiting. And so when your best player is on your wing, uh, it's like I said, it's a red flag. It's like, oh, that's not fun. And it was very quickly pointed out to me that Owen Hall plays on the wing and played on the wing all season for Stevenson. Owen Hall, very much an exception. Aiden Cook, very much an exception. He played a lot on the wing down the stretch for Flint Powers. I don't know if that was the case all year long, but like I said, from the NIHL showcase on, and I had watched them a couple times, he was on the wing. So obviously those are kind of your outliers. Those are your exceptions to my rule there. But when you see some of these other programs with their quote unquote best player or their leading scorer is playing wing, it like I said, sets off some red flags for me. But again, Owen Hall, I said maybe one of the best wingers in high school hockey this season because super impactful in all three zones. To have I think it was Christian Lang playing center on that line, Connor Buchanan as well. I mean, that line for Stevenson was a buzzsaw. You're talking about three guys right there who don't stop moving their feet, who are constantly engaged, heavy on pucks. What just happened? Oh, controller battery died. Why that would affect a game that you're simulating makes no sense, but let's see if we can fire this back up. There we go. All right, we're all set now. Sorry about that. But yeah, just a buzzsaw of a top line. And I mentioned EGR's top line potentially being the best line in high school hockey this season. But when you look at that line for Stevenson, like I said, just a buzzsaw. Can you imagine that trio on a forecheck or a third, fourth line grinder type at the junior level? Like, they're going to give you everything they got. They're going to block shots. They're going to battle in 50-50 pucks. You can't ask for much more than that from a coaching standpoint at this level. Gotta love the work ethic there. And Coach Dave Mitchell has always done that with his guys. He's always done a great job of getting his guys to buy in and play the game the right way. And like that. And I think, this season's team he's had a lot of great teams over the years. But in terms of like that buy-in and discipline, I guess the shot blocking, the heavy on pucks and forechecks, and some of the characteristics you love to see in your team as a coach. I'd have to imagine this year's bunch was one of the better ones. Peter Sain, another one that's been kind of quiet in this virtual tournament, that I do not think would be the case if these guys really touched the ice in this format. So it's been an interesting little tournament thus far. Like I said, it's meant to be fun, meant to kind of give me an opportunity to continue talking about some of these players in our game and things like that. And like I said, just have fun with it. But simulating and how the games are unfolding, some of the stats and goals and things like that, I don't know if it necessarily unfold the way that it's unfolding here on NHL 25. But it's been fun. It's been fun, and like I said, the reception on social and what I've heard back from you guys so far seems to be you guys are enjoying it as well. So we'll see. This was, like I said, this was a lot of work to put together. Maybe a one and done. I don't know if I'll do this again next year, but who knows? Maybe you guys can twist it to do it Oh, wow, look at that. Dylan Blackwood on the picks. Look at that. There's a fancy little dipsy do into the slot there. What I got here? I can pull up Dylan Blackwood real quick. Blackwood, kid out of De La Salle, obviously. Big year for him. 14 goals, 35 points. Uh, as a senior there. Let me see if I can pull up his career numbers and some career metrics during his time with the Pilots. Blackwood, I think that might be his second or third goal of the five Regions tournament so far. After today's games, I will get my stats updated and all that going, and maybe we'll put some leaders up on the website as well, just for shits and gigs. You can check that out too. There's a link in the description um, for that, so you can check out the standings and stats and rosters and everything in real time if you want to follow along. And really, if you're watching these games, if you're not watching these games live, it might be best to watch on the website because, like I said, the rosters are right there to the right, and you can see everything right there on your screen. Let's see here. Back-to-back 25-point seasons. That's 60, 71 career points, it looks like, for Dylan Blackwood. Yeah. It's a pretty good 3-year career, especially considering the strength of schedule and the quality of opponents that a team like De La Salle is facing on a nightly basis. Roman Valaire, Cam George, two brother Rice guys there. I got a chance to talk about them quite a bit during yesterday's stream. So if you're looking for some Rice chatter, you can go back to yesterday's games and check that out. Blake Tice here in net. I don't know if he's getting enough attention, to be honest with you. I think when you start looking at uh, underclassmen goaltenders that was a fancy move there, but usually these computer game, when you're simulating stuff, usually don't make flashy plays like that. That was actually really cool. But Blake Tyson, if you want to start looking ahead towards next year and where he fits in the equation, when you think about some of the returning goalies that would be in the mix, um, given his numbers, given his skill set and everything, he's got to be in the mix and be up there for one of the better returning goalies in Michigan high school hockey. I'd have him up there. I think Sam Hogue is a junior as well for Caledonia. He would be up there. Sean Story is one guy I like a lot. He's on Team Michigan next week. I think camp starts next week. Jack Dirksen from Saline really elevated his game at the Team Michigan tryouts. You could have him in the mix as a top returning goaltender. And mentioning all those names, I put Tice right in the mix there too. Fantastic numbers this season. Tice was 12-7-0 record. Like, that's not going to overwhelm you, but again, considering that MIHL schedule. Oh, no, excuse me. Blake Tice was 9-7-1. But a 174 goals against and a 931 save percentage. Like, those are really strong numbers for a guy who, like I said, played in the MIHL this season, played a tough schedule, and then I believe was kind of Cranbrook's backstop on their playoff run, where see, I mean Cranbrook had one of the lowest team goals against averages in the state this season, and so some of that is a product of the team and the structure and the discipline that they play with, but you can't lose sight of the fact that At the end of the day, you got to make the saves. You got to be the guy at net, and Tice was that. Yeah, and he was him and Steven Luzell split time, damn near 50-50 throughout the season. But Tice getting his number called there in the playoffs. Let's see here, two, four, 8 goals against total in 5 playoff games. One of those being an empty netter. So you're talking 7 goals against in 5 playoff games, playing some of your best hockey when your team needed it the most. Um, and like I said, just Cranbrook in general, the way it's a similar way to not quite as imposing as like Catholic Central, who gives up 14 or 15 shots a night at most, and that's been the case for several years now. But Cranbrook just plays very disciplined, very structured hockey. I got 2 other centers on this Metro East lineup as well, Nick Timko and John Luca DeSalvo. Like, that to me is probably where your defensive structure starts. Because you're so good down the middle of the ice and you have responsible center play at both ends of the ice, that's going to make your goalie's job a lot easier when you play good defensively. Uh, Now, Tice, like I said, he was an NDHL guy, has seen some high level competition. He's a little compact, maybe a little undersized, I guess, if you want to talk about size. I try not to when it comes to goalies at the high school level because it's not a major factor. But when you start talking junior hockey and stuff, obviously that plays a larger role. But Tice is super athletic, battles really well, um, and so to have a guy like that potentially coming back next season for Cranbrook, uh, God, what a luxury that would be. Dom Chappett out of Salem, he's got a couple of goals in this little showcase here. Chappett, Lynch, Suey, those are guys I've all touched on here quite a bit in the tournament so far. Cavadio as well. I was talking to Sella a minute ago. Will Keene, he's got all the measurables. He's got everything you want in a high level junior prospect. I believe he's listed at like 6'4" or something, and wildly athletic given his size and how he plays in that in between the pipes. A guy who's been turning heads in high school hockey for 2 years now. I remember conversations at the MHA showcase, not this last summer, but 2 summers ago, and people just wowed by his athleticism. There were times throughout his career where the numbers weren't like amazing, right? Maybe goals against north of 2 and change, and a save percentage that was right around 9. Let me pull it up real quick just so I'm not spewing BS. Um, but there were times throughout his career where, like I said, maybe the numbers weren't overly impressive. Last year a .89 or an 897 save percentage for the season, and a 263 goals against. Face value, it's not going to wow you, right? But if you see this kid in action and you see his athleticism, the way he moves laterally side to side, um, you see he's got the size as big as a house. He's got the intangibles to be a real high level junior prospect. There's a save from that MHA showcase 2 years ago that still kind of resonates with me. Oh shoot, there's one off the pipe. Moving laterally, kind of sprawling out as he was moving left to right, and made a big doorstep type save on a guy back door, and that's what I mean is you would see flashes of it like that, like the numbers are never going to tell that story when you're watching a kid like that in action. Uh, so, like I said, given his intangibles, his athleticism, there's a guy who I think is he on Team Michigan this year too. Could get a really good look there um, at the CCM NIT. Like he's a guy who can play at the next level, who has a real shot at the next level too. And coming into the season, I even thought he had potential to be the best goalie in Michigan high school hockey. Um, I think Henry Lansky kind of stole the show. A lot of us didn't see that coming. I don't want to say didn't see it coming, but yeah, Will Keane and Lansky being your two goalies there for the seniors. Uh, what a tandem! Holy shit, the senior team really set up well defensively. Great defensive core there with six solid defensemen and then two stud goalies in that. Um, but I had mentioned at the beginning of the season, um, I had some people tell, oh, actually, everyone's going to put this game on ice. That Del Monte out of St. Clair Shores, Isaiah House at the second point of the game. Might be the only sophomore on this Metro East team. Look at that. Metro East just snuffs out Metro West. Not even a game. Put them on ice. 3-0. I wanted to finish my thought. Towards the beginning of the season, or I was doing conference previews and things like that, and I was getting some feedback like, it kind of feels like a down year for baseball. This is what people were telling me. It feels like a down year. There's just not a whole lot of like players to get excited about, or like who's the big name and things like that. And I kind of put the brakes on. I was like, look, like there's a lot of first year guys coming in that are going to make a huge impact, and you could get that impression from, like I said, your MDHLs and MHAs, and getting a good read on the high school hockey landscape at both of those organizations. And you were seeing some of these first year guys, Nino Suey, Justin Bloink, Henry Lansky, and those guys that were making a really big impact in the fall that the high school hockey world hadn't seen yet. And so I had said on the pod, if you guys want to go back, was like, it's not a down year. It's going to be a different year because you're going to have so many first year guys making big impacts. And that's exactly what we saw. Henry Lansky, your Wall Award winner. Nolan Kaminsky, the first year guy. You're Mr. Hockey for 2025. So yeah, that didn't come as a huge surprise for me. But like I said, I think there were some skeptics out there going into this season that didn't know what to expect. So, all right, two games in the books. We got one more on tap here. Metro East with I will call it a surprising 3-0 shutout. Blake Tice, I was hyping him up pretty good in the game. And here he is standing tall. So, final game of the day, you're going to get West Michigan in action for the second time. They will play North for the first game of the day. And then tomorrow we're going to this playoff action. How do I want to do that? All right, we'll button things up here and get into our final game of the day. Appreciate you guys bearing with me here through any technical difficulties, hiccups, dogs barking in the background, uh, that type of thing. It's been these more casual, laid back podcasts have been good. It's let me get to West here. Trying to talk and do stuff at the same time. It's not going well. But these last couple podcasts and the next, obviously two throughout this week, have been very different pods for the brand. But I've had fun with it. I've enjoyed it. It's been a little more casual, a little more laid back, off the cuff. Um, I don't have any notes or kind of script in front of me here uh, for the podcast. We're just kind of winging it as we go, and I don't know what players I'm going to talk about based on kind of how the game unfolds in front of us as we stream. So Kind of an interesting little endeavor here with the PD's Picks podcast. But I kind of like being put on the spot. We're talking about some of these topics with little prep or no prep. Um, we haven't seen much commentary or engagement from people streaming at home, but I don't think the streaming times have been ideal. Some of these I think have been less than ideal. So you guys are watching kind of after the live stream, but that's all right. I'm more just noting it for future reference when I'm doing live podcasts, talking about topics and opening it up for what you guys want to talk about or what you guys want to discuss here too. So, let me update those standings real quick after that game. Metro East. Metro East in a three-way tie for first. But North and West, who are in action right now, obviously still with a chance to pick up points here. So you got North, West, Metro East, all with 6. You got the UP with 4, and Metro West with 3 points. Not completely ruling that out of the realm of possibility, but if this was a real life tournament, I'd be stunned to see Metro West last in this group. Just considering the junior prospects and the talent that they have in real life. That region, like I said, your Howell, Brighton, Catholic Central, Northville, lumped into that Metro West. Livonia Stevenson lumped into that Metro West. So some of your perennial powerhouses, top 5, top 10 teams in the state in that Metro West region. James Albert, here we go. I was just talking about him a minute ago. Anderson Ward, a kid out of Petoskey. There are 2 Petoskey kids in the lineup for North. And I might have to keep an eye on them next year. Petoskey has been an interesting bunch over the last couple of seasons. They won a regional back in, I guess it was 2019. It's been a couple of years, but it didn't feel that long ago. I think that 2019 regional championship might have been the first regional championship in program history. But then again, won another one this winter. It's like I said, Madden Pateman being the other Petoskey kid here on Team North. Pateman, and then wow, you couldn't have drawn that up any better, eh? Talking about Anderson Ward and Madden Pateman here for Petoskey, and then he's scoring a big goal here. But Petoskey 14-10 on the season. Where did they finish in the Big North? All right, tied for second in the Big North, just behind Alpena, tied with Traverse City West in the standings. But then win a regional championship over the Bay Reps, which is, I'd consider that a pretty big upset. I know I talked about the Reps being a little bit down this year, or just young, developing. But still, that doesn't take anything away from a regional championship there. It's still a big win in a big spot. But guys like Pateman and I gotta get back. Pateman and Ward, those are younger guys that I've been hearing about for a while now. Chase LaFave, who's their goal? Nick Tim, that was another guy. So they had some pieces and some guys that people were talking about and kind of say bringing to my attention, so to speak. And so I think next year could be an interesting year because I think Pateman's an underclassman, right? Yeah, Pateman's an underclassman. Ward's an underclassman. Nick Tim, I think, Nick Tim is a junior. So a lot of these guys who had a pretty impactful role for Petoskey this season, and again winning a regional championship, are slated to or could be back next year. Um, so Petoskey, I think, is definitely one on my under the radar short list of teams that I probably need to keep an eye on here in the future. Isaac Wheeler, senior out of Gladwin. Let me pull him up real quick. Gladwin was another team I didn't get a chance to see or talk about much this season. Um, but Wheeler was a guy with 43 goals on the season, 65 points. And I think that like he had a couple monster seasons like that now for Gladwin. Let's see if I can pull up his career stats real quick. On the elite prospects. I'll just give it a chance. Isaac Wheeler trying to stuff one home there, trying to make me look smart again as I'm talking about him, but then score on. Oh, okay. Did play last year, but no stats on elite prospects, which doesn't bode well if I pull up that one. Go to the hub and see if they have different information, but I doubt it because elite prospects pulls its numbers from the hub. There's nothing. Well, there is. Okay. Uh, 60 points last year as a junior. So you're talking back-to-back 60-point seasons for Isaac Wheeler. I mean, and Gladwin last year, he only won, I thought they won like 20 games or something last year. Didn't they? 20 games last year, then they won 18 this year. A program that I believe was around when I played, kind of went away for a couple of years, then came back with a bit of a resurgence because of guys like Isaac Wheeler. Um, but I think a pretty large senior class this year. Oh, maybe not. Kind of just four on the roster here. But Isaac Wheeler obviously being one of the big ones there. Um, be interesting to see another program that's kind of intriguing about the future there. But Braden Guzman, Clayton Newman, two guys that had 20 plus goals on the season. Guzman's a junior. Clayton Newman, I'll get to him in a second. He's a junior. Okay. So we'll see. That'll be another interesting one to keep an eye on into the future here. Preston Willer in goal started all 25 games. He's a junior, 18-6-1 record this year. Uh, he's a junior. So keep an eye out here for the Flying G's. Plus, that's a great nickname there, right? Flying G's. I can get behind. Toby Perot. I think I talked about him a little bit earlier this week, but I think he's a guy who could really be one to watch this time next year to see what his junior hockey prospects are. Smart, smooth, puck moving defenseman. Doesn't have flashy numbers. Is not going to turn a lot of heads when you're looking at the stat sheet. Um, and that's why I tell you guys that's such a small story, such a small portion of the equation when we start talking stat lines. Toby Perot, 3 goals and 14 points as a junior. And I'm telling you right now, he's one of the best defensemen in the class of 2026. Um, Everybody wants to blow up my DMs and leave comments on posts and things like that about stats and so scored 1,000,000 points in his career and all like it does not matter to me. The points do not matter. Like show me what you got on the ice. That's ultimately what matters most. Because there's a ton of guys who don't put up big numbers that are 10 times the player someone else is uh, who is putting up 40, 50, 60 points in a season or something like that. So, and that's why too. I think performance in the MDHL matters, MHA, Team Michigan. Those performances matter more to me than a 5-point game on a Tuesday night in January against insert random team. So what do I got in net here for who's 30 there? Oh, I think it's my guy Nash Leonard out of Bay City, who if let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I gotta go to my Instagram to find it. This just went very quiet and very. Nothing. If I pull up, I put together a graphic towards the beginning of the season about your most experienced goalies in high school hockey this season. I know Nash Leonard was in the mix, but I don't remember. Okay, so Jack Miller out of Allen Park would have had the most games played heading into the season. Miller, I think, pursued junior hockey and did not play for Allen Park this season, which made Nash Leonard your de facto most experienced goaltender in high school hockey this season with 55 starts heading into the season. Uh, heading into the season with 55 starts, he then played 22 games this season with a 12-9-1 record, 225 goals against, but a 943 save percentage, which I think that would put him at least in the top 10, maybe the top 5 when it comes to save percentage in the state. Um, Nash Leonard, a big kid, just competes really well. Um, talking with Coach Shock there, he was saying Nash Leonard is our MVP of the season. Like, I don't know where we would be without a kid like that, which I think tells you everything you need to know right there. So when I was looking at North goalies, Boynton Fisher was a shoe-in for me. He made a ton of sense. And then from there, Hunter Clark, after seeing what I saw from him at the state semis and finals. And then Nash Leonard, like I said, Bay City might not have had the success that they did a season ago, but just his importance to the team there and the role that Leonard played in their success seemed like a good fit there for my third goalie on Team North. Wrapping things up here. Is this the third period? It is the third. North up 1-0. West got to make a push here. Make a push, make it interesting. Maybe give us our second overtime game of the day. That'd be fun. Haven't had any. Maybe we get 2. But let's see here. West and North, both of these teams sit in first place. So whoever wins here is going to be the standalone in first place with just one game to go in round robin, which, if I look ahead to tomorrow, neither of these teams are involved in. So Metro West and the UP are the one round robin game. That was glitchy and weird, but nonetheless, Braden Lewis tying it up here 1-1 as these two teams battle it out for first place. Tony Kaufman, Toby Perot, guys getting involved there. Look at this mad scramble in front. And then Leonard ends up picking it in. Gotta love the pitches. Right there, and then a whoop. But okay, these two teams here battling it out for first place. UP, who did I say tomorrow? UP and Metro West will be the game tomorrow, and they will essentially be playing for last place. Metro West wins, they move up to fourth. UP wins, they would stay in fourth, and then the ranking did not change. I know you guys aren't looking at the standings, but I'm just doing my best to paint a visual picture there of what the standings look like right now. So, winner of this game going to be in first place. Get I guess, for second and third, I'll get the bye. Would be top seed throughout. Winchester. I don't know if you guys could hear that. Uh, the play-by-play names, obviously, some unique names in high school hockey. So they are not in the AI, the video game system. So I don't know if you guys could hear that or not, but it's called Winterstein Winchester, I think is what that. Anderson Ward, Callan Ray. Callan Ray is another one too. I was talking about top junior defensemen. I've mentioned Nolan Vink. I've mentioned Toby Perot. I guess Callan Ray is a senior. Now that I think about it, my bad. Getting him and Drew Charlin mixed up, but Callan Ray was considered one of the top defensemen this time last year in the class of now 2025. So when he was a junior, a lot of buzz around him coming in into his senior season. So if you want to look at guys like Perot, like Bink, I think they could follow a similar trajectory as what we saw from Callan Ray in the last couple months here this season. If you want to start projecting out or thinking about what might lie ahead for guys like Bink and Perot and others. Big chance there. Right on the doorstep for Cade Sanborn. Midland, Midland was an interesting team this year. Sanborn and Mancroft both, I thought, tore it up at the MDHL. They were tournament team guys for the organization in the fall. They had really good, call it off seasons. That's what I'm trying to call it. Midland's still pretty young. I know there's some young pieces there, some young guys that'll be back in the future. Like Andrew Partapillo comes to mind in net for them. I think he's just a sophomore for Midland. So I just thought with the high level guys that they had, some of the young guys that they had to build around in the future, I thought this could have been Midland's year a little bit. It was super high on them coming into the season. Obviously, the SBL is super competitive. Midland Dow proved to be better than I expected. Flint Powers, I knew they were going to be good. I didn't know they were going to be that good. Um, and who else? Bay City was a tough out in that league. Like I, I was high on Midland without realizing just how tough of a slate they had ahead of them. I think is kind of what that came down to. Jake Rao defending here out of Tri Valley. I haven't gotten a chance to talk about him much. He's another MHA kid who um, continues to get better every year and making improvements. I saw him at Team Michigan tryouts, and it looked a little fast. Oh, how did that tip not go in? It looked a little fast. Looked a little tough, challenging. I think maybe a little bit, but um, it's looking at where he was a year ago as a freshman, uh, and the strides he had made, especially like because I saw him 2 years ago at the MHA Showcase, saw him again this last summer at the MHA Showcase. And you have that like good benchmark where like I know I saw this kid this time last year to then see him again that same time this year, and you saw the development and the improvements in his game. So he's making strides, making improvements. That continues. That trajectory kind of continues and continues to develop. I think that could be a huge win for high school hockey, as well as obviously a win for him should he continue to develop and progress. Uh, assuming he kind of sticks with that MHA path in the offseason. Tri Valley, that program, I know it was kind of a first year co op combining of two co ops combining to make one. Um, and really, I think I even talked about it in the preseason on that co op, kind of taking the best of both worlds from both those co-ops and having pieces to work with. Uh, they had a goalie I liked a lot too. I think I put up. Um, Wakefield, Noah Wakefield, I liked him a lot. But it was William Gallagher getting the majority of the starts. So there's two good goalies I think that you have to work with this season. Gallagher is kind of on his way out there. Noah Wakefield, I think, It's just oh, he's a senior too. Okay. For some reason I thought he was a underclassman, a young guy. Um, but Landon Bridgewater, Max Miller, Jake Rowell, obviously Preston Pudman, another name out of that co-op. They had some players. They had some nice pieces with that first year co-op. In Jake Rowell, obviously they went 18-7. Like holy smokes! Um, but Jake Rowell obviously can be a key cornerstone guy there for that co-op for the next couple of years. All right, overtime. I asked, and the game delivered. It's happened a couple times. I don't know if anyone was watching the stream yesterday, but I asked for more action out of Heartland, Howell, and CC guys, and then what happened? A Heartland guy, a Howell guy, and a CC guy all scored a goal. So um, just had to ask, and the NHL 25 gods delivered. So Aiden Cook, breakaway, overtime, real life. This game is absolutely over. There's no doubt in my mind Aiden Cook is coming up watching a spot like that. So, Mankoff and Cook on the ice, Kaufman and Lewis on the ice here for West. I can't tell who your defensemen are. Logan Betcher on one side, Gibby Grandel on the other. Can you imagine Gibby Grandel in a 3-on-3 situation with that much open ice and open space? Good luck. Here we go. Second chance. Oh, wow. Fool me once, shame on. Was it fool me once, shame on you? Fool me twice, shame on me. Aiden Cook, a third chance. This is just incredible. Sam Hogue, your tournament MVP right now, and this is his first start of the tournament. 3 big stops on arguably the best player on Team North. Kobe Perot, Tony Kaufman the other way. Kaufman is big. I did not realize how big he was. But watching him on film, I think I watched them play Milford, and he just looked big on film. Like, looked 6 foot, built, thick, strong on his skates type stuff. Built for the next level. And Kaufman, I believe, is a guy on his way to Davenport next year. Davenport, obviously, a very strong, good collegiate program there in the UCHA. So a good landing spot for him, obviously close to home there too. But a guy who would be interested. I wish more guys explored the junior route, just gave it a shot, just see how far you can go, see where you can hang. And junior hockey is not for everybody. I get that. College hockey is not for everybody. When you go from, and I know, like, just from my personal experience, like high school hockey and youth hockey, you feel like you're playing for something bigger than yourself. Like you're playing for your team, you're playing for your school, you're playing for your community. When you get outside of that and you start pursuing junior opportunities, you start pursuing college opportunities. Wow, that would be such a garbage goal. 2.1 seconds left. When you start to explore those opportunities, you very quickly realize you are playing for yourself. And it takes a certain level of not selfishness, but like you have to be looking out for number one first. And it makes for a unique dynamic at that level. And the successful teams find ways of the successful programs and organizations at those levels find ways of balancing that individualism with that team component and getting guys to buy in. But I just playing beyond youth hockey is a different world. It's a different world, and it's not meant for everybody either. Because, like I said, it takes a very specific type of personality, I think, to navigate those waters and be able to connect the dots that when you're at practice, you are legitimately competing with other guys who want that same spot. Oh, wow. Right off the rip, Braden Lewis, far down. But yeah, your teammates are not necessarily your friends. They are your competition. You've got to look out for what's best for you, not necessarily what's best for the team. It's a very tricky environment. Like I said, that not all of us are cut out for. So. Well, at least we got a goal right out of the gate. And usually these simulated shootouts, the computer just goes for days. So good chance there. North, oh, gotta have it. Well, interesting. He made it into the net one way or the other. Then. Well, it was the puck for himself. There we go. Put the game on ice for West. Not going to happen. All right. All comes down to this. Sam Hogue, who stood tall all game long. Can he win it for him here? Bingo. Oh, can't do that. Can't do that there, Butcher. Kick it into the net. Doing the gritty. Oh, God. Sometimes this game is so cringe. All right. Big win for West. Claims the top spot in the 5-team tournament, which will start on tomorrow's live stream here. Let me see if this game kind of wraps up. I guess we'll see this through. Check out some of these highlights real quick. Nice. Scramble off the garbage goal there. Whatever. Don't ask how, ask how many. 38 shots on goal for North. Couldn't get the win. Wow, that's a dagger. That is just the way this game goes. All right, we'll bring it back to center here real quick. We'll wrap up today's stream. As I mentioned, we got one more round robin game tomorrow, and then we'll get into some playoff action with a 5-team playoff. Should be fun there. Talked about a lot of players today. Continued to all week long. Players, programs. We're going to touch on, like I said, the breaking news, the Joey Larson news earlier this week, signing an entry-level contract with the New York Islanders. We talked about Rick Gadwa stepping down from Heartland and kind of what that means for Michigan high school hockey as a whole. So we'll kind of continue to touch on some of those things as the week unfolds and continue to live stream some games. And like I said, you made it this far. Obviously, like and subscribe here on YouTube so you can catch the next time we stream games. Leave a comment, connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever. And we can further the conversation there as well. I did get a request. I mentioned this yesterday. A request for these rosters. Wanted to be able to download them. I'll make those available. Maybe I can do that today and have those ready for tomorrow if you want them. So, okay. Till next time. Skate hard. Have fun. See you.